Hi everyone. My apologies for the slight delay. It appeared that with the testing that I had, included the wrong key for the stream. So my apologies again. Today it is the 24th of February, which means that we are almost at the end of the month. And of course this was quite a special month, with it being a leap month in the leap year, and also the year of the dragon started this year and this month. So there were a lot of things going on this month. For me, I have had an interesting month, not always the easiest month, especially health-wise, but I won't bother you. I won't bother you guys with that, because that's not all that interesting, or at least not for you guys. Let's just keep it at the fact that in a few days I hesitantly will go back to work, sorta. Not quite happy with it, but it seems for now I will have to make do. But on a happier note, and I'm happy with that. For my writing, I made quite some progress this month. I managed to fix some problems in my outline. I decided to remove the point of view role from several characters, which should leave me with about, I think, 8 point of view characters throughout the whole series, so that's doable, right? At least I hope it's doable, let me put it that way. And well, no, I'm wrong about that. It should leave me with 8, 9, 10, 10, at least 10 really main characters throughout the series. So I just have to see how things evolve with that. I have no idea whatsoever. I'm still working on the outline, and that will give me or that will cost me I think several more weeks to finish, perhaps even months. I hope to have it finished by the end of March, but I don't know yet. It's going to be a challenge to be able to finish it by the end of March, but I have no idea. We'll see how things go and how I manage to continue the outline for the whole series and look from there. Because I have also seen that, or experienced that, keeping track of everything also takes time, and I have a lot of things to keep track of. I mean, it's not just the storyline that needs to work. I have loads of foreshadowing in the story, which means I need to keep track of that as well, because it needs to be on point and it needs to be at the right times. So that is one thing to keep track of. Another thing is the timeline. Can people actually be where they are supposed to be? And how does that work? So, yeah, all in all, it's quite a challenge that I've set for myself. But you know what? That's okay. And I'm fine with it. But I'm up for the challenge. And that's a whole different ballgame. And, you know, when you're writing, at least it's my experience, when you're writing, you may find yourself coming up with story ideas that are absolutely not related to your current project. And, yeah, that happened to me this weekend. This weekend. I woke up, I had pain in my shoulder, but I woke up from a dream in which I was, let's just say, stabbed in the other shoulder. So yeah, that sparked an idea for a story that is absolutely not part of the Tergaenae Chronicles. It can't happen in the Tergaenae world. So I decided to set it aside and to just keep an eye on it, or rather keep an eye on, not so much keep an eye on it as in see how things go when I'm stuck with the Tergaenae Chronicles. When I'm stuck with the Tergaenae Chronicles and I can't do any world building and things like that either, then it might be just a solution to work on another project. And in the past I didn't have that. I was kind of, well, not really stuck with Tergaenae Chronicles, because in certain ways I could still work with the project, but not so much as in writing. Well, this is a whole different project, and I will need to do a hell of a lot of world building. Again, it's a high fantasy story. I mean, yeah, why not? So that already is a lot of world building that I need to do, because again, it plays in a different world. But there are, let me say, other complications which makes the world building process way more complicated. But with a bit of luck, it will, you know, make it a good story as well, like the Tergaenae Chronicles. But I decided to just set that project aside and to focus solely on Tergaenae Chronicles, because that is right now where my heart is, and I really want to make that happen. I want to see those characters come alive, and I want to share that with you all. Not only the world that I'm creating, but also all the characters and the storyline and everything about Tergaenae. So that is still my main focus. And like I said, when I feel that I'm stuck for some weird reason with Tergaenae Chronicles, only then will I turn to the other project to at least keep the writing flow going, and to keep my writing process going, and perhaps that can help me get unstuck in Tergaenae Chronicles if and when that happens. So that's quite pretty much how February was for me. And yes, I know we still have 5 days in February. After all, this is leap month, so we're going to have a February 29th. So we have 5 more days after today. But my next live stream is next Saturday, which is of course the 2nd of March. So I thought this was a good time to, you know, just do a little recap of what all happened this month. And it is, I mean, the writing process, you can make it as complicated and as easy as you want. Okay, there are very easy ways, and I will not go into that because I'm not really a fan of that. But there are also easier ways, or I mean, you can make things as complicated as you want. That's pretty much it. And my mind has a tendency to make things complicated for me, but you know, that is okay, and that is the challenge I have as an author. And yes, for those wondering, I am not published yet. That is something that I hope to do in the future. And I hope, I mean, for most of the authors, it's their dream to have their story published one way or another. Well, for me, my dream is to indeed have my story published one way or another. And I hope that I can at some point find an agent, and then with that agent find a publisher who's willing to publish my book. My apologies. I did sleep for a long time, but apparently not enough. Welcome to my COVID world. Anyways, I hope that I can find a publisher. I mean, it would be a dream come true if I could find one of the big publishers, one of the big five, or their smaller companies to publish my book. I mean, that would be amazing. But if I can't find a publisher, then I will go through the self-publishing route. That is not an easy route because you need to do everything yourself. So you need to make sure you need to hire an editor. You need to do all the marketing yourself. You need to make sure that your book gets on shops like Amazon, etc., etc. So you need to do a hell of a lot of work for that as well. It's a whole complicated mess. Oh, well, not a mess, but it's a whole complicated thing. So I would prefer, if I can at some point find a publisher, because they will essentially do all the work for me. Well, besides writing the books, of course, that's my job. But if you have a publisher, then it saves you work as well. Of course, you will go through editing phases with them as well. But you will also, I shouldn't say that, you won't have to do all the other stuff. You won't have to do the marketing. You won't have to look for someone who will make your cover, etc., etc. All those things that do not have anything to do with the actual contents of your book. That is what they do. Which leaves the author time to perfect their book. I mean, we're all perfectionists, let's be honest about that. It leaves us time to perfect our book as far as it's needed. And it leaves us time to keep on writing and to keep going in that writing flow and in that writing process, which is important to do as well. And with writing process, I do not only mean getting words into your story, but I also mean the world building that you do, the research that you do for certain things, creating characters, and building them, seeing how they are, or discovering them, depending on what kind of an author you are. So those are all things that are all part of the process. And those are important parts of the writing process. So your writing process is not only writing the words. And sometimes I get the idea that people who are not authors kind of get that. I mean, they think, oh, you just write and it's okay. Yeah, it doesn't quite work like that. I mean, yeah, you can start like that, but you also have to have at least an idea of where you are going and what you want to achieve with your story. And from there, you can continue to work, or at least have an idea of the world that you are writing in. So, yeah, that is all part of the writing process. Hi, Comment, welcome. It's nice to see you, and good morning. Well, for me it's afternoon, but good morning to you. I hope you've had a wonderful weekend so far. Let me know how you are doing and what project you are working on. I'm very curious to hear that. I was just about to go into our first writing sprint of today, because I think I've talked enough already about the writing process and how February was for me. So today I will go into the outline again and see how far I can take it. So I'm not writing words in my story, or at least not in that way. So I won't be counting. I won't be doing any word counts for myself. But I'd love to hear how you guys are doing and how your project is progressing through these writing sprints. So first things first, I do have a few writing prompts for you. I hope you guys like them. And for those who don't know yet, I totally forgot to introduce myself. For those who don't know me yet, my name is Ilse. I am a magic wielding dragon companion and a creator of worlds, and here to help you on your author journey. And today we do that, or I do that with you guys, with several writing sprints. And those writing sprints are usually our writing sprints of 25 minutes with a break in between. And in the break we will look at how my and your projects are going, if you have any questions, things like that. Questions about writing, questions about world building, they're all welcome. I'm happy to share my experiences with you guys. And from there we go to the next writing session. In other live streams I might do things differently, but then then those are really themed live streams, like I did a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, with the Year of the Dragon live stream. That was a bit different, so we had slightly different writing sprints. But today we will have our normal writing sprints of 25 minutes. So let's get into it. And I have the first writing prompt for you, which is a message in a bottle. I was walking this morning and I found this in the water with, I think, duckweed, or I don't know what it is. It's floating in. So my prompt for you is this bottle. Is it trash for, I don't know, what your character finds? Or is it indeed a message in a bottle? Is it perhaps, I don't know, for example, something from a different time? Something from someone from a different place, from a different planet even, perhaps. How did it get in that water? And is there a message in that bottle? What does that message say? And what is your character going to do with it? Is she going to do anything with it? Is she leaving that bottle there? Is she going to retrieve the bottle and open it? Or perhaps she does nothing with it? Let me know in the comments what you did with it, or in the chat if you are watching now and participating in the chat. I wish you guys a lot of fun with this writing sprint. And let's get into it for 25 minutes. Tish, welcome. You say you had to move from your phone to your computer. I'm glad you're able to catch me this morning. You need to do some editing. Welcome, and I hope you can do some more editing for these last 15 minutes of this writing sprint. Have fun. that is the end of our first writing sprint. How did it go for you all? Like I said, I'm not counting any words right now. I've in the process of making my outline better, I decided to make a complete overview of the chapters and specifically who has what kind of role in the chapter. So if it is a point of view role or just a participant's role. Why am I doing that? It's to help me get some more insight into if I have the correct point of view, characters, and a good balance in the whole series of the point of view characters. Because if you don't have a proper balance, and if it doesn't, let me put it differently, if you don't have a proper balance and you have too many characters that get too much attention who are not supposed to be the main characters, you might start to think if those in fact are the main characters. So I will have to look at it, and I'll I don't know yet. I'll have to see how it turns out. One of the things, of course, is I'm now making the outline. I'm not yet in process, or not yet again, in the process of writing this entire series. So by the time I start writing, I'll probably need to adjust this overview to keep track of how many characters are in which chapters and how much, for lack of a better word, screen time or reading time they will get, to see if there are characters who can be deleted in essence, because if there's a character who throughout the series or throughout the book only has, I don't know, supposedly you have a book with 50 or 100 chapters, and there is a character who's only in there for 1 or 2, then you might start to consider if it's more useful to simply delete the character. It of course depends on what kind of story you are writing. If you are writing I don't know, a murder story, for example, then you might have the victim in one chapter just as a living, breathing person who will say and do things, and in the rest of the chapters this particular character will not say and do anything anymore because he or she's dead. But this chapter is, or this character is still mentioned, so in that case you can't remove that character because it's quite essential to the book. Because without that particular character you essentially wouldn't have a book. But in this story that I'm writing, I know there are characters who are basically merely world building characters, or characters to show the character growth, the character, or how should I say that, the traits and the values of certain main characters, instead of them or me telling them. I show it through the interactions they have with these characters. So that's a different way, and sure, these extra characters can be removed, but then you have to find another way to get that information across to your reader. And oftentimes that is done with telling instead of showing. Well, when you show something, it makes it far more immersive. In the original first book I had written for the Tergaenae Chronicles, which is now being which is going to be incorporated in the whole series, and I will probably have parts of that book that will now be in other books that will maybe play earlier or play later. I will have to see about that. But in that first book, I had, for example, a little girl who was having a doll, and she, who has a doll, and she and her mother visit the temple, and Isla, one of the main characters, happened to be there as well. The little girl was told by her mother that she needed to make a sacrifice, and many people do that in Tergaenae, and that the doll she brought was supposed to be the sacrifice. But the little child didn't want to sacrifice the doll because, I mean, she was just a few years old. Well, she could talk. She was probably 4 or 5 years old. So she really didn't want to part with that doll. And at that time, Isla gave her a little sacrificial doll that she made, especially for these kind of situations, to help the children to still be able to sacrifice something, but not having to sacrifice their own particular doll. And especially in this case, because the doll of that child had a blessing on it, and it was a kind of protection, an active protection of the child. So that was something that Isla felt through her healing skills, and she convinced the mother of that and made sure that this little girl would always have that doll with her and would have something to sacrifice instead. So that is a way to show a little world building and to show something about Isla, instead of having to find a way to tell that. It does also show how she is with children, and a little bit of how her healing skills also work, and how she is connected to all different kinds of magic because of her healing skills. And I think that it is important to do it that way, instead of someone, probably her, telling someone else, probably one of the other main characters, about it, because then you don't have that immersion, or at least I wouldn't feel that immersion, let me put it that way. And it would feel more like info dumping, instead of something that you might need at that moment when she was supposed to tell that. And in this way, it becomes an integral part of the whole scene at the temple, and it becomes something that shows how Isla responds to things and does things. So yeah, I mean, in that case, this little girl is someone we probably won't ever see again in the books, because she was just there just because of that reason. But at the same time, she's not a character I would easily remove because of all those functions that she has. But I will have no doubts characters that can be easily removed. I think I've already marked a few characters in my character overview for that, so that I can have a proper view of which characters can be removed if things get too much or something like that. I mean, I won't kill them. I'm not George R. R. Martin, who just keeps on killing all these characters. I don't work that way. Or, well, I think not. Right now, I don't think that I will, but you'll have to see about that. But it's a, how should I say that? It's a way of dealing with things that you might not how should I say that you might not do in another way. Simply because otherwise you would really sink into that whole info dump danger, and I'd like to avoid that. So that's, for me, was what I've been doing in these writing sprints. I haven't added any chapters in the outline yet. I hope to do that in our next writing sprint, because I still have a lot of work ahead of me, but that's okay. But this overview of the point of view, characters, and chapters is something that I need as well. So it will help me keep track, and it will help me make sure that my story is the best it can be. So it's kind of an evaluation tool. If you could see it as an evaluation tool, to see if a character is essential to the story, and if a character is actually needed in the story, or if a point of view role for that character is actually needed for the story. Right now I have one character in that overview, of which I think, no, actually two characters, of which I think I'm not quite sure yet. They do have a certain role, because otherwise it would be pretty weird, because other characters can't quite know what they are thinking and what they have discovered and what they decide to do with it. But because these are processes those characters have to go through as well, they are, or their stories are, kind of vital as well. Because they might be side stories, but in the end they make a huge difference. Hey Nick, welcome! It's great to see you here. You're just hanging out for a while. Thank you. How are the kids doing? And how is your weekend so far? I hope everything is going all right, and that you are feeling better again. Oh, and Tish, how's your mother doing, by the way? She's still doing good. I forgot to ask. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. I'm trying to keep up with the chat as well. So that is what I've been doing with the last writing sprint. Did you say your mom is better? Oh, that's great to hear. I'm really lucky. I'm really happy for that. Lots of family over the house. Yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah, I remember that when my father was ill last year. We didn't have lots of family, but my brother and his girlfriend and I went over, and my ex came as well. Because we still have a good relationship, and he still has a good relationship with my parents as well. So that's very nice. And it's nice if we can support our parents and grandparents, if it's a grandparent, in that way, even if it's just being there. Sometimes that's just enough, just to be there. And Nick, you say the kids are sleeping in this morning, so you're enjoying some tea and you will try to write another poem. Oh wow, that's great, that's awesome. One of the community members on Discord in the Fantasy Button Chair Tavern also writes poems, and I admire you guys, because I, for the life of me, can't write poems. It is just, for me, it's I don't know, it doesn't work for me. And if you ask, you're curious, have I ever read any fantasy-based poems? Not that I am really aware of. It's... I don't remember reading it in the books, but I think... Well, wait a minute. I think in the Throne of Glass series there was a poem. I vaguely remember that. And Lord of the Rings doesn't quite have poems, but it has songs, I think. Game of Thrones. No, I don't quite remember Game of Thrones in that respect. If I look at Discovery of Witches, only now realize it, that is a fantasy setting with lots of witches and vampires and all kinds of things, set in the modern age in the last few years, but also going back a few hundred years out of the top of my head. I think there was a poem, maybe two in it, but it's, and I don't quite remember any really fantasy based poems. No. Do you have you read any fantasy based poems? I'm really curious about that. And Tishu say it's so true, support and love our elders. Yes, indeed. I mean, they bring with them experience that otherwise we wouldn't be able to get. And of course, our parents are our parents, and they have a whole different role. I mean, I don't have any grandparents anymore. My last grandparent died when I was 12 years old. Yeah, 12 years old. So I don't have many experience. Well, not many that I, out of the top of my head, can recall. Of course, there's the Christmas celebrations and Santa Claus celebrations and things like that. And my grandparents took care of us while while our parents were working. They would get us from school and things like that. But I mean, I never got a chance to have talks about all kinds of things that would that a teenager would worry about or would think about. So they bring a whole different level of experience with them, and also the older the people are, the more, let me say, the more history they bring. If my grandparents would still be alive, they would be able to talk, for example, about the resistance work they did in World War II, because I heard that they did that on both sides, if I'm correct. So yeah, on both sides. Well, on no, I mean my grandparents from my mother's side and my grandparents from my father's side, not the other way. Not like they also worked for the Germans back then. They didn't. They were in the resistance, or somehow worked for the resistance or did something, things like that. Those are things I never got to ask, because by the time that I might start to get curious about that, they were all already gone. So that's, if you look at that, looking at that right now, that is so weird, to be honest. Yeah. Nick, you say you haven't. You were curious if there are any out there. You might try to do one this morning about the fantasy-based poems. Yeah, I have to say I'm not one to read poems. I admire people who are able to write them, and people who read them and write and find really joy in reading the poems. But poetry is not my cup of tea. Let me put it that way. I mean, it's not that I hate it, but it's simply not my cup of tea. So I have never really looked into it. But now that you say it, of course, in medievalish times, in fantasy times, I can imagine that poems can be important, and poems can also have certain information coded into them, so that they could be. But that's just making it up as I go. They could be sources of information for people to exchange information on from one side to the other and things like that. So I might have to start thinking about it. Thank you, Nick, for the inspiration. It's oh boy, I really might have to think about that. Okay, interesting. Nick, you also say, so sorry to hear that your you lost your grandparents and parents. No, you didn't. Or you did. You loved your grandma so much. Granddad was the best too. Didn't really know your mom's parents until they aged. Okay, I understand. Yeah, it's missing your grandparents and parents. It's so it can really leave a hole in your life. So yeah, it can be very hard. And if you say, wow, such history from our grandparents, they were filled with stories. Exactly. And you figured if you wrote a fantasy-based poem, it may help you with the premise of the story. I think that's a great idea. It can really get you going. It can give you ideas of relationships between characters, but also relationships from one character to a whole group of characters. So yeah. Did you say it's a good idea, Nick? Great way to brainstorm, and you haven't written a poem in over 20 years. I have to say, I don't think I've ever written a poem. Well, besides the normal what you leave in friends' books and things like that, but the basic default poems, the small poems you leave in friends' books, but that's about it. I don't think I ever really wrote poetry. And did you say you'll be right back? You need a hot cup of coffee. Excellent. Well, I'll wait for that. I'll wait for you to return, and then we will start our next writing sprint. And in the meantime, I will take a look ahead at March. Why do I do that? Because in April we have Camp NaNoWriMo, and I plan to to participate in Camp NaNoWriMo. I don't quite know if I will be writing, as in writing words in my story, or if I will still be working on my outline. After all, an outline for a series is quite the work already. But I kind of hope to be able to start writing in April. But if not, then it will be later. So my plan for March is to keep working on my outline. Because, like I said, I'd love to have that finished before April, and to do some more world building, because I really need some names. I need a certain organization to be set up better than I have now. I have a really very global, or not global, a very rough idea of what the organization might do, and that's pretty much it. So I really need to set up that organization and where their headquarters are and what they do and how the hierarchy exactly works, things like that, because I now have several of my main characters who will, in one way or another, have a link with that organization. So I need to really set that up to make sure that I can properly use that organization, because otherwise it's I don't know, otherwise I think I might have a problem. I also have some other work to do. If you guys have followed other live streams where I talked about the relationship between Naja and Najat and the alliance treaty that was coming up, I need to do work for that as well. I mean, I had this idea of the Alliance Treaty and things that are important in that, but there's a lot more that I still need to figure out, and I mean, things that need to go in contracts and gifts that need to be exchanged and things like that. So that's a piece of world building I still need to do, things of which I now thought, okay, I've got it in the outline. Right, so they're preparing the gifts. That's nice and all, but why are they preparing it already? Because there's no treaty assignment yet. So that's something that I need to figure out and need to put on paper to make it more logical. And other things I also need to work out more properly, like why the flutter nymphs are so important in all of Tergaenae, because the flutter nymphs as a creature, as a species, is becoming more and more important in the story, but I haven't really pinned down why they are so important, besides the fact that they essentially run the Inky Winged Beats, together with other flying creatures that I might introduce later. But I mean, that's not all. Yes, the Inky Winged Beats is also the biggest newspaper and the most important newspaper in Tergaenae. Also something I need to figure out why that is, because I haven't really figured that out yet. So those are things I still need to work out. So I've got some world building ahead as well in March. So my plans for March are, well, I won't say simple. It's hopefully finishing the outline. It's doing some more world building because I really need to do that. And some prepping, as in making sure I can get through Camp Nano, with meal prepping and things like that. I mean, I won't make it, let me rephrase that. It won't be as much as I would do for November, because November is a really tough month, and in April I give myself the freedom to deviate from all the goals and to just do whatever I want. So if I don't write for 5 days, then I don't write for 5 days. It's simple as that. So the preparations can be a bit lower than for November, but I do want to do some preparations. So yeah, those are my plans for March, and I'd love to hear what you guys are planning for March. Tish, you say you're back. Oh, welcome back. That means that we will start our writing sprint soon. And you're looking forward to April Camp NaNoWriMo. You're going to write book 2 of Maxine Jeremiah Cozy Mystery Series. Excellent, excellent. Oh, that's going to be great. I love that more and more authors are writing series instead of just one book. I mean, the Tergaenae Chronicles started out as one book and now it's a series, and I expect that I will find that I will have spin-offs. Because there are things that might work that way. I'll see about that. I don't know yet. But it's just having this series in itself, and having that other book that I will work on when I'm a bit stuck with Tergaenae, that's already a lot. And knowing myself, that project will probably also turn into a series, because I can't seem to stick with just one book. That's something I'm apparently not capable of. It's probably the reason why in high school I had problems writing essays and such, because I just wanted to keep on going. So yeah. Nick, you ask if I'm on Instagram. Well, I do have an Instagram account, but I haven't used it for a very long time. Let me see if I can pull it up for you guys. It should be the same as what I have. That's what I have here. Yep, and the last one is from almost 2 years ago. That's the last photo I posted, so that's really a long time ago. And there you have it. Here's the Instagram account. It's really I mean, I've used it for quite a while, but at the moment I find, especially this last half year, year and a half, I find it hard to keep up with all social media, because keeping up with YouTube, that's a whole job in itself. If you are a content creator like Tish and I are, that in itself is already a job. And also keeping up with Facebook and with Twitter and Instagram and Blue Sky, and I'm not going into TikTok because I have no idea how that will work out. And all these other platforms, it's just too much for me. It's too many things to keep track of. Too many how do you say that in English? Let me see if I can pull it up. No, it's not incentives. Everything that comes inside. Basically, you can see it as sounds and everything that you see coming in, but also that also means with all the notifications and things like that, and that puts a lot of pressure on my brain, as in literally my brain has right now, due to long COVID, has trouble deciphering what is important and what isn't. So everything comes in as if it is all very important, instead of background noises that are just supposed to be background noises, things like that. And having to keep up with all those platforms, that's way too much. Yeah, Nick, I haven't been there since 2022, yeah, indeed. At some point it just became too much for me. And I'm don't really and I never posted that many photos of myself, because I'm simply not like that. So it was more posting writing prompts or posting things about Tergaenae and things like that. So I already used it haphazardly. So that is why at some point I just decided, you know what, it's becoming too much for me. So I'm just slowly letting it go. I'm for a while not posting on it, and when I feel that I'm ready for it again, then I will start using it again. But for now, it's way too much. And if you say you have only Instagram and YouTube, okay. Well, I'm on Instagram. Yes, I am on Instagram. I have an account on Instagram, and for now, that's basically it. I have YouTube, of course. And besides that, I also have Twitter, which I'm starting to use again more. I've been pretty silent on Twitter for a while, but Twitter is, I think, the platform I've been on the longest, together with YouTube. YouTube was really as a user and not as a content creator, not as an author. And Twitter, if I'm correct, I'm about, well, more than 10 years at least, and I've been on Twitter. I think 2009 or 2010 or something. So it's quite a while already. And I'm also on Facebook, but that is right now basically to keep track of a few groups that don't use any other media, or well, at least not other media to share information with between members. So that is why I'm also on Facebook, but I only use it for those particular few groups and nothing more, because that's just too much. I've started using Blue Sky. I've also dipped my toes into what's that called, Mastodon, because of all the things that were happening with Twitter. So I'm slowly starting to use Blue Sky right now more, because Mastodon is great, but it's so fractions that I can't really feel my way there. So I'm using Blue Sky besides Twitter, and I keep using Twitter because I have several authors there that I follow and who I correspond with, but also artists and game designers, game artists, game devs. So in that respect, Twitter is also quite important to me. Tissue say, gosh, you can't stand the notifications, you keep yours off. I can totally understand that. I have set my phone to silent, so only when I look at it, when I actually look at my phone, I will see the notifications. But otherwise, nah, I won't look at it. And Nick, you ask, what is Blue Sky? Blue Sky is an alternative to Twitter. It's been around for a while already, but it became more known when there was a lot going on with Twitter last year, the year before that. Tissue say you found Mastodon hard to navigate with too. Yeah, I mean, that's, if you really want to find a good community, then you have to be part of so many Mastodon instances that it's simply way too much. And Blue Sky is, in that respect, better than Mastodon. It's based on the same engine, a similar engine that Twitter actually also uses, from what I understand. But Blue Sky isn't as fractioned as much, so I feel more at home at Blue Sky. And Tissue say you have a new one called Lemon, something like that. It's good for writers and content creators, but you don't want to get overloaded on social media. I totally understand that. I haven't heard about Lemon. Let me see if I can find something. Lemon social media. Lemonade social media. Seems like it. Short description, social media. Oh no, that's social media training for women entrepreneurs. So that's something different. Fresh Lemon, social driven creative agency, digital communications. No, I can't seem to find it really easy. I don't know. Lemon Social. Lemon Social is the first website for content creators to integrate blockchain technology to safeguard user material against scammers. That's a new way of using blockchain. Attention, this site contains adult content. By accessing, you acknowledge you're 18 years of age. Okay, that's okay. I think I'm not going into that. The weird things you might find when you start to Google things. Sometimes I am surprised by what we can find on Google, and I mean we can basically find everything. And I know there's a running joke going on with authors, like when an organization like the FBI or here in the Netherlands, the intelligence service, let me put it that way because I don't know the exact English term for it, when they would get access to what we all search for in our bookmarks and things like that, they might just throw us in jail just for having all that information. I mean, we can, I don't know, we have loads of information to do all kinds of things. So it surprises me every time again what you can find on Google, and I basically only use Google. Just you have the address. Let me check. Lemon 8 us. Wait, Lemon 8 us. Let's see. Lemon 8. Here. Yeah, I have it. Oh, that's different. Okay. Extra popular posts about lemon. Just a lemon app. Let me get into that. Oh. Okay, so that's kinda like Instagram, sorta? Just from a quick view. Come on, work with me. Okay, I'll leave it open and see if I can see what I think about that. I will put it in the chat for the others. I will put the direct link in the chat for the others. Lifestyle community, a lot of writers and authors are over there. Okay. Okay, interesting. Interesting. Lemon 8. That's quite different. Oh, but I like it. Okay. Fashion, beauty, travel, and more. Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing more writers and authors. It's always fun to connect with other authors, and I'm always happy to see more of them. So I'll definitely check it out and see how it works, and if it's something that I can feel myself at home. Okay, now that we're all back again, let's do another writing sprint, and I have another writing prompt for you guys, of course. It's different than what I gave you guys earlier. Let's see what you make of it. So let's go to the windmills. I don't think it's a windmill that was in the Netherlands, but I'm not sure about that. But here in the Netherlands we have quite a few windmills, and several of them are still in active use. Oh, Tish, you say Lemonade is like Instagram and Twitter mixed together. That's interesting. That's interesting. So, because that way you can have the best of both, it seems. I'll check it out. Thank you for the tip. I'm grabbing. Yeah, here we go. So the windmill. Here in the Netherlands, we have loads of windmills, and we even have a tourist route that will guide you through a lot of windmills, still functioning windmills. There are windmills that are still functioning, and where you can actually buy ingredients for making bread, for example. So that's awesome. I really admire that. They use the old techniques to make everything, so that is really awesome. And some windmills will also allow you to have a look inside and to really go up to see how everything works. So that's awesome, and I'm glad that they keep that they keep those windmills in good conditions, so that we can still see a part of history. Because that's also one of the things that people might forget. I mean, if you look at the kids nowadays, sometimes they just might think that everything just is from the stores and doesn't grow on land or doesn't walk on land. I'm sometimes surprised at how kids think about everything that's in the stores, and that they are surprised that there might be shortages of certain things that they would like to buy or that they would like to have. I mean, especially during the first years of COVID, of the pandemic. I mean, that could be a real problem. I remember that there were limits on how much of a certain painkiller you could buy. You could buy 2 little boxes of paracetamol, and that was it per visit. Okay. Toilet paper is another thing. I mean, we didn't get those kind of problems that we needed a lot of toilet paper, but people were hoarding toilet paper. I mean, why? For heaven's sake, why? Things like that. And there is this abundance of meat and vegetables and other things that are always available in the supermarkets and at butchers and things like that, and with the bakeries. So children will always think that they can easily get it, and that it simply comes from there. Well, no, it doesn't. I mean, the cows and the pigs and the chickens, they all walk around, but more and more children don't see that, because cows and pigs, especially pigs, I mean, cows we will see in the meadows. Chickens, usually not. Pigs, neither. So they might think, okay, the cows, so there's this big cow, and there's meat in the market. So how are these two connected? But the pigs and the chickens, they don't have an image of that. Well, I mean, there's the image on the package, if there is an image at all. But actually knowing what a pig looks like and how it behaves, and I mean, having a pig as a pet, why? I mean, don't they realize that pigs can get really huge? I mean, sure, if you have a lot of space and if you are, I don't know, living on a farm, or you have a humongous yard, then you might be able to hold a pig, but don't keep it in your house. Or, I mean, that's what I think. But children don't see that. They don't see the pigs alive and in stables and things like that. So they don't really have a good idea. And that is why I love seeing things like these windmills, because that is still a part of history. And they can have a look and they can see how things were done. I mean, nowadays all our meal and things like that, flour, I should say, for making bread, it comes from big companies, and they produce it all differently nowadays. But the mills, these windmills, were what we used to have decades ago, centuries ago. I mean, that was normal. That was normal part of life. And that is why I like that these windmills are still here in the Netherlands, and that we can still view them and visit them and see how they work. So that is the writing prompt for this writing session. A windmill. Your character sees one or hears about it, or perhaps sees a toy of it, or actually visits one. I mean, I know that the windmills here in the Netherlands, during the tourist seasons, there are flocks of tourists, and I do mean huge groups of tourists who will visit the windmills, because in their own country they don't have windmills anymore. So for them it's quite new, so they will come in hordes to the windmills. So your character is in one way or another confronted with a windmill. Let me know after the sprint what you made of it and how your character deals with it, if it is in the picture. I wish you all a lot of fun and happy writing. this is the end of our second writing sprint. How did it go for you guys? I made progress both on the outline and on the overview of the point of view and participants in the chapters list. So I'm making nice progress. I'm happy with that. I removed one chapter from the outline, and like I said to you guys earlier, I can easily see spin-offs getting from this main series, and apparently I already decided on that earlier on. I think last week or the week before that, I don't remember, I think last week, that I decided that it might be fun, just fun, not necessary, but it might be fun to have a spin-off book, possibly a series, but I think a book, that will tell the story of Rowena in during the course of this main series. So I'll see how that goes. For now, I'm just copying all the information in an outline or in a notes section for Rowena for possible spin-offs. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So that's already 2 extra projects that I have besides the main Tergaenae Chronicles series. So that's ought to be fun. Tishu say you're progressing pretty good at the beginning of chapter 2 editing. Excellent, excellent. It's always great when you can see and really feel that progression in your book, and when you have a good feeling about that. So that's awesome. And Nick, how are you doing? Are you still with us? And also others. Let me know in the chat how you are all doing and what you are working on. I'm very curious about that. Let me check the things I had in mind for today. I don't quite remember. I think we mostly checked things. Oh, right. Yeah, I remember what I had planned also. Yeah, like I said, my outline is making nice progress. I'm now at a point where I'm keeping an overview of those point of view characters in the chapters, and I am adjusting my outline to make it work better. I'm not yet putting in new chapters, but that will come hopefully later on this weekend. Nick, you say yes, you're still here, just freestyle writing. Excellent, excellent. That's great. Sometimes that also just works. It is how I started the relationship story of Naja and Najat. It was totally unplanned. It was for me just originally, I have to say that originally, it was for me just a means to an end. It was just to know some details that I needed to know on where certain main characters would later on find Najat and Naja, and how they would be and what they would have been through, and certain details that would be known or not, but certain things that needed to be clear. So it was originally, it was just literally a background story, and I didn't need an outline for that because it was just, I needed to know some things of the past, and that was it. So it was like you were doing right now. I was just freestyling it and just going along as I went, until I discovered that this was actually the beginning of the story of the series. And then I found that I have to include it in the outline, of course. It's so incredible how things can evolve. I mean, sometimes you will find that you don't need it in your book, but it can be a fun side story, or you can put it on your site, for example, if you have one. like I just told you guys about Rowena, I might put it on my side later on if and when I decide to write that story. I might publish it as a standalone in the process of at some point having the series also published completely, because I do feel that I first have to publish the entire series before I can publish Rowena's story, of course, because otherwise it would be quite weird. Because I would spoil things. In Rowena's story, with Rowena's story, I would spoil things for the entire series, and of course I can't have that happen. So I will first write the entire series, the main series, and if I find that there is enough content, by lack of a better word, for a spin-off book, then I will write a spin-off for Rowena. And if I find that there are other characters who do have an important role in the main series but are not point of view characters and who might have an interesting role, interestingly enough, or interesting enough to deserve their own book, then they will get their own book. So yeah, it's fun, and that is also the freedom I give myself, just to keep on going and to see where it leads me. And I think completely freestyle writing is an awesome way to discover where your world and where your story and where your characters can take you, and what surprises they have for you. Because, how should I say that? Sometimes when you have an outline and you're too focused on the outline, you don't see the whole picture anymore. So an outline can really help you to keep track of your story and to make sure that everything is in it that you want to be in it. But it can at the same time work limiting. If you get tunnel vision. So every now and then it's good to just freestyle and to just write a bit about your character, or about, I don't know, some building in your world. For example, I might write a little thing about a temple, and I completely forgot. There's going to be, I need to make a note of that as well. I already in my World Bible I already have a little bit about the origin of silk in my world, and during the world building I already decided at some point that it would be fun, if only for myself, to write it into the story. So yeah, that's going to be, at some point I will have that, and that will have nothing to do with the main series. Well, I'm saying that now, but it might have some relationship with the main series, but I will see when I get there. Did you say, yeah, that's true? Yeah, and it is. And Tish, you say, you have to agree, you wrote an outline, but you strayed so far from it, and you think you like discovering your characters and go on a journey with them as we discover things together. Yeah, that is so beautiful, and that is why I have a limited outline. I do write a few sentences, maybe a few key phrases, and if there is a detail of which I think that it is very important to have in a chapter, then I will include it in the chapter. But otherwise it's really a very rough summary of the chapter, of what I intend for the chapter to be or to become. And also I have notes in it, for example, for the bridge to the delegation in Nasha's kingdom, something like that, so that I know that in the end of that certain chapter, I need to make sure that I have some kind of bridge from that chapter to the next, to make it logical that there is that we have a jump to another place or another character. But basically that's it. I'm not a detailed outliner, and it's exactly what you say, Tish. It's so wonderful to see where your characters can take you and where your world can take you, and how things can develop when you just let it develop for a while, sort of on its own. I mean, things might become way better than you originally had in mind, and if it becomes worse, then you can always just remove it from your manuscript and rewrite those parts and just do it differently. That's the beauty of our craft. I mean, we're not making something that is set in stone. In the end, it's published, or rather, we'll hope that in the end it is published, and then you can regard it as set in stone. But until it is published, self-publishing through books available on Amazon or in hard copies or whatever, self-publishing on your website or through Patreon or things like that, platforms like that, or actually publishing through one of the big publishing houses or smaller publishing houses, then it is pretty much set in stone. I mean, you won't adjust the book anymore once it's published. That wouldn't be logical unless there are glaring mistakes in it, but I think that an editor should have fixed that before, should have seen that, and should have asked the author to fix that. And I do know of occasions where the author got the book once it was published, and he or she found real errors that he or she didn't put in the book. So that was something that someone else put into the book. So that can also happen. But normally, once a book is published, I think it won't be adjusted anymore. I mean, it might be different for scientific projects or historical projects where you need to adjust it to new discoveries and new archaeological finds. But fiction, I don't think that's adjusted anymore once it is published. So until it's published, you have all the freedom to adjust your story as you go and to make it better. And if you deviate completely from the outline that you originally set up, who says that's wrong? It's your story, not someone else's. It's not my story. It's not, hell, I don't know, J.K. Rowling stories or George R. R. Martin stories. It's your story, and you are the one writing it. So you are the one deciding if it is a good development or not. And I think that is something to keep in mind when you are writing a story. Even though people often say that basically all stories have already been told, I beg to differ. When you create a world, especially fantasy writers, if you create your world, you are the one telling the story of that world. There is no one else who has told that story yet. I mean, sure, you might have the almost default boy meets girl, girl meets girl, boy meets boy, whatever relationship you wanna include. There's often that where you can say, okay, in the beginning they meet, they don't like each other, and going along they will come to appreciate each other, and in the end they have a relationship. And that can happen. Or I don't know, one of them falls at first sight, and the other one starts to develop feelings, etc., etc. I mean, let's be honest, that can also just happen in fantasy stories. I mean, why wouldn't you have a fantasy story with a decent romance story incorporated into it? So yeah, that's all part of our writing craft, and when we develop our own world, a secondary world, there is no one who could have told that story, because it is your world. It hasn't been discovered yet until you tell about it. So there is no one who can tell you that your story from your world is not good, because you are the one who has developed that world. You are the one who has discovered that world. So you are the only one who can say if it is good or not. People might judge your writing style and might judge the pace of your book, the depth of your characters, the depth of your story. But that's a whole different ballgame. That has nothing to do with if the story already has been told. But that's just my opinion. That's the way I feel about it. It's how shall I say that? That's also the beauty of our craft. We each have our own writing process. We each think differently, or often differently, about certain things. And that is also important. That is what makes us unique. Each author is unique. Each author has her or his own experiences, his or her own point of view on things, life that has formed this author. And that makes each author unique, no matter what kind of story that you're writing. And that is what I love about our art. Everything is unique, and sure, stories may look alike, and if you look at the well-known Harlequin novels, you might think, okay, I've read that 1,000 times. Yeah, I have to admit that. And at the same time, these novels are there for a certain audience. They love those novels. And I mean, I loved them as well when I was a teenager and early in my 20s. And now it's something, you know, when I want to read something and I just don't feel like getting really into something, when it's just reading to, for lack of a better word, pass the time, then I might grab something like that. But otherwise, I'll grab the next George R. R. Martin or Robert Jordan or Terry Brooks or whatever, name any of the fantasy writers, and I might grab one of their books. So yeah, that's I think that is important to keep in mind while writing and when developing yourself as an author. Nobody is the same. Nobody has the exact same writing process. We are all unique, and our processes may be similar, and we can help each other with that, which is awesome, by the way. I mean, I love it when authors help each other with all kinds of things. It's one of the things that I always talk about. It's important to have sparring partners, to have critique partners early on in the process who can help you make your story better. Because as I say, you write on your putting the words on paper is something you do alone, but all the rest of the writing process is not a lonely job, despite what many people may think. And it is what makes our craft so incredible and beautiful, and it is one of the many reasons why I love writing and world building. It brings so much joy, not only to ourselves but also to others. Storytelling is something from the ages. It's timeless. It's not something that will ever go away. I mean, you tell stories through books, through music, through movies, television series, through plays in theaters, just on the street when someone is playing, or playing music or whatever, orchestras, etc., etc. They all tell stories, and that's the beauty of it. That is the awesomeness of storytelling. In one way or another, it speaks to all the people in the world. And that is why I think that our craft is important, and there is no reason to put it down. There is, I mean, sure, you can have a writer's block. I mean, I've had it for the greater part of 2 years. I didn't write a word. I worked on my world building, which is part of my writing process, but I didn't write a word in the Tergaenae Chronicles. But in the end, I kept going. I started to write again and started to develop things again. And that's the beauty of our craft. We can do so much, and our books and our stories can mean so much to other people, and that is what's important. So that is what I wanted to share about writing with you guys. And I have one world building tip that I wanted to share with you. Dreams can be very inspirational. Like I said in the beginning, I woke up with pain in my left shoulder, while in my dream I was stabbed in my right shoulder. That inspired a whole new story, probably another series, that does not play in Tergaenae Chronicles. It does not play in Tergaenae. It plays in a whole different universe, so that's really so different. And it's just a little spark. Sometimes you just need that little spark. So don't set aside any dreams that you have. Just think about, oh, how can I use that? Is there something, just a little something in the dream that I can use in one way or the other? I mean, I know when I woke up, I was confused because it was what I was stabbed with was a hook of a crane, like a fishing hook, but then of a crane, and it was supposed to go into my ear. So I was really utterly confused because, I mean, such a huge thing going through my earlobe, but how? I mean, I couldn't imagine it. And in the end, it went through my shoulder because... So that was really weird, but it did give me the inspiration for a setting of a completely different world, completely different universe than Tergaenae. So it's just that little something that you can use, and weird. Sometimes it can be really weird. And Nick, you say it was drastic and a vivid dream. Yes. Well, the weird part is, in the dream, it didn't hurt. So I was aware that it was done, but it didn't hurt. Only when I woke up, my other shoulder hurt. So I did not understand that part. So that was weird. And I mean, it was supposed to go into my ear, and I mean, your earlobe is small. You can't have huge things in your earlobe. That's just simply not possible. So that was already something I didn't understand. I mean, a little hook. I mean, earrings often just have these little hooks that kind of look like a fishing hook. But I really, I had no idea. And indeed, Nick, ouch, yes, it was so weird. But at the same time, I was happy with it because it did give me that inspiration for that new setting, for that new universe. And in essence, an extra project to work on when I'm stuck with Tergaenae, when I, for one reason or the other, can't write and can't do anything with world building and can't do anything with my characters because for whatever reason I'm stuck. And then I still have a project to work on and to keep me in the flow of writing, and writing as in world building, story development, character development, but also writing the story at some point, because I will need to do a hell of a lot of world building for this new project once I get to that, because it's really very complicated. So there's, I mean, I had to do a lot of world building for Tergaenae, and for this new project, for this new setting, I need to do at least double the amounts, at least. So that's, yeah, that's going to be a very big project, as in world building goes. I mean, it might just be one book. Well, knowing myself, it won't be one book. Okay, so it might be 2 or 3 books, hopefully. But the amount of world building that needs to be done is humongous. So that is also one of the reasons that I said, okay, you know what, I'm gonna park it, and I'm not gonna work on that for now. That's just for way later, when I'm stuck with Tergaenae for one reason or the other. Or, for example, when I've finished my first draft of the entire series and then need just some breathing space from Tergaenae, from the whole series, to be able to see it with fresh eyes later on, once I start the next draft. And then it is good to have a completely different project to work on, to stay in that writing flow, but have something completely different, which sets your mind in a completely different way. And when you return to your original story, to your other story, then you are able to view it more objectively, because you've been taken out of that story, because you've been working on a project that's been so different, or at least that is what I hope that will happen to me at some point. That would be great. That would be great. So yeah, that is one world building tip I wanted to give you guys, based on a dream I had. Just use any small detail of a dream you might have, and see how that can work for you in a different setting, or how it can work for you in your story, because it might just be exactly the thing that you need to get the flow going again for your story. So yeah, that's it about writing and world building, what I wanted to share today with you guys. So having said that, are you all ready for one last writing sprint? After I take something to drink, because I really need that right now. Which is, by the way, something that I can really advise you guys. When you're writing, you can be so focused on writing and staying in that flow that you might forget to eat something or drink something, especially when you are going through Camp Nano, or rather NaNoWriMo itself in November, because NaNoWriMo has such a huge goal. So make sure that whenever you are writing, have something to drink with you, have something to eat or snack with you, so that you can keep having energy for that. Tish, Nick, you both are ready. Excellent. Then we'll start our last writing sprint of today. And I have one more writing prompt for you. Let me see if I can do this correctly. Yes. Mossy stones. What do you see in this? As you can see, there are... Oh, wait. What did I do? Oh, okay. I just scared myself to death. For one moment I thought my outline was gone. I don't know what I did, but I've got it back again. Anyways, mossy stones and the river flowing through it, through the stones, past the stones I should say. And if you look carefully, you'll also see plants, some ferns probably, some other plants growing on the stones. I think that the roots are in the riverbed, beneath the stones, because there's this plant. Can you guys see that if I move the mouse over it? I think that you guys can't. Oh yeah, you can see that. Here, this plant. Oh no, no, you guys can't see it. The plant that's at the right, at the right of the big rock in the middle, of the big mossy rock. I think the roots of that plant grow into the riverbed, and that it crept up on the stone, with thanks to the moss. Because moss is also an excellent growth medium for plants. It's excellent to have to let the roots of plants grow in. So that is why I think that this particular plant is growing there, because of the moss. So, what does your character do with mossy stones like this? Is she perhaps someone who makes terrariums or paludariums and she's inspired by this? Or she might even want to take a little piece of the moss to use in her terrarium. Or maybe she's a painter and she is painting this scene. Or she's just reading about it or seeing it in a documentary or anything. There are so many things. Or maybe she sees the painting of this scene in a museum somewhere, or in a restaurant where she's eating, or where he is eating if you have a male character. So see how you can use that in this last writing sprint of today. I wish you all a lot of fun, happy writing, and see you in 25 minutes. And that is already the end of our last writing sprint of today. I am looking forward to hearing from you how it all went. In my case, I was kind of surprised. I actually also did some world building quite unexpectedly. It was a piece of world building that is more of the political nature. And that is all I can say right now, because otherwise I will give you guys spoilers, and I'm not gonna do that yet. Let me just say that here's something I can say, and the High Council of Tergaenae has allowed me to tell you guys a little bit about it. In Dragon City, the Alliance Treaty renewal needs a mage present, and the unfortunate thing is that the mage that was in Dragon City, the representative, decided to quit and not wait for everything of the renewal to be done. So there's a whole process to get a new mage there, to get a new representative there. And one of the things in the process is that each High Council member is expected to suggest at least one candidate for this function, perhaps two. They cannot suggest themselves, and none of the High Council members can suggest any of the other High Council members. What is connected to it is that once a candidate has been chosen, and that takes a while, the High Council member who suggested that candidate needs to accompany that candidate to this new city or new city-state or new kingdom, and make sure that she gets settled before before this High Council member returns to the White City again. So that little part, that last little part, was something I hadn't discovered yet, and the High Council of Tergaenae decided to tell me that just yet. So yeah, that's a surprise, but it is a surprise that comes in very handy. But I can't tell you how or why. That is, let's just say, part of the story. So yeah, I can't spoil you guys about that. Tish, you are wrapping up chapter 2. You will take a morning break and start editing chapter 3. Awesome. You're really making awesome progress. I'm glad to hear that. And Nick, you got 10 pages writing, just thoughts and some storyline you can possibly work with. That's awesome. I mean, when you have the progress that both of you have, you can really work with that, and you can really keep on going, and that is great. And even if you are just free writing, just to write and to see where it takes you, you can make such beautiful stories of that. I mean, sometimes there in those kind of stories you will find the base of your entire story, or you might find the seed of another story that is even better. But that you got the first 10 pages done is already great, Nick, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what your progress is the next time we speak each other again. And editing 2 chapters already and then going on with chapter 3. That's great. I feel that we all made incredible progress today. I'm very happy with it. I still have a few other chapters in my outline, existing chapters in my outline, to check for things, to make that overview that I talked about earlier, to make that complete, and to check for a few things if it all still flows the way it is supposed to flow, because I had to fix a few things in that matter as well, because I had made other connections earlier, and now I removed a few chapters, and I was like, okay, I removed those chapters, so how am I going to do that, and how am I going to do that? I'm going to jump from that one chapter that has absolutely nothing to do with the other chapter. How I'm going to make that jump? So yeah, that was an interesting issue to solve. I think I may have solved it, but I'm not quite sure yet. But that's something for the future. I think I will, in the end, really discover if I have solved everything once I start writing the chapters. But for now, I'm pretty happy with how the outline is turning out, and with how the characters are turning out, and that is a good thing. So that was the end of our last writing sprint of today. And next week, that is the 2nd of March, out of the top of my head, the 2nd of March, we will do another live stream again. And that will be, let me think, the normal, usual live stream like today, starting at 2 p.m. Central European time or Amsterdam time, and it will go on for about 3 hours. If you have any questions or topics you would like to ask, or you would like me to talk about, I should say, leave your comments in the comments below or fill in the form, and I will try to cover those questions and topics in the next live stream. One thing I know, one of the viewers from last week asked about is AI. Nick, you're welcome. You're very welcome. I'm glad that you had a wonderful time, and I was really happy to see you join. Harry, if you were looking, if you are viewing right now, the AI topic that we talked about very briefly last week is something that I will do in a series. I discovered several things that I want to look into a little bit more, so I won't post the video coming week, because there are too many things that I need to have answers to, and there are too many things that I need to figure out before I can post it, because I got to know a little bit more, or some new things that I didn't know before. So I need to check those things and need to see how everything works, and what the consequences are for us as authors, and also for the publishing industry. So I will make a series of it, 2, maybe 3 videos, or 3, maybe 4. I will look into that. I don't know yet, but I won't publish it next week because that's too much at the moment. Tish, you say, thank you, Ilse, you needed this, and you read your mom's writing when you can. You're very welcome. I'm very glad that I could help this way. Please give my best regards to your mom, and I hope that she will have a speedy recovery. It's great that she's home already, and that she's already doing better than last week. That's awesome. And I hope to see you all next week again. And Tish, I hope to be able to join one or more of your live streams this week, the coming week. I'm looking forward to it. So I wish you all a wonderful weekend, and may you have a lot of joy in writing, and be it writing a new story, or editing, or world building, or anything in your writing project. I wish you all a lot of fun with it, and I will see you next